And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Got Dreams, the show where we help you share your unique gifts with the world so you can get paid online. My name is Michael Mataluni, and joining me today is Ted McGrath, the creator of Message to Millions and Got Dreams. Ted, how are you today?
Good, man. You?
I'm fantastic. I'm excited because you're on fire with this event, this 3-day challenge that you've been doing. We've got a lot of feedback from folks who are getting really excited and taking a lot away from it. Maybe you can give us a little breakdown quickly. I've got a lot of folks who have takeaways that I'm going to share with you that we can go into. But what's the thing that you took away, that you're taking away from this event?
People need it, like I haven't been live in a while in terms of teaching Message to Millions content. And, really, I've been live and teaching Message to Millions content in 6.5, 7 years. So, besides when we do like a 4-day event, and even then it's mostly my team. So, getting back in and connecting with seeing where people are, also realizing that the basics haven't changed in 7 years. Some of the marketing techniques have changed, but not so much. So it just shows you that things do change slowly. And while there's new innovations in the marketplace of how to get your message to millions, there's also the basic fundamentals that are still true today that were true 7 years ago, and how much people need their story and they need their message. Those things will never change in marketing. How much people actually need a program that they can scale. This is the same stuff we were talking about 7 years ago. And to see that, you have some people that 7 years later are still thinking about it, and like, God, I got to do something about it. So it, inspires me to do the events because I realize that people are stuck, and that's the reality of it. They're in a world today where it's kind of like paused for the last 2 years, and people are trying to figure it out and kind of get their lives back. And so stuff like that gives people the motivation and the inspiration to go, wow, I need to do something about it. So,
Right.
my takeaway is going live makes that impact, and helps people get from that place of kind of being stuck or procrastinating or hesitating or thinking their time's over or thinking it's too late. The virtual world to me is like, of marketing today is kind of like, reminds me also of Bitcoin too, because, people are like, is it too late for me to start?
Right.
And a good thing is never too late for you to start. And that's the thing that people need to realize. Like, good things stay around for a long, long time. Great companies stay around for a long, long time. So this is a great business. It's a great industry. And it's going to be around for a long, long time. Bitcoin, it's always interesting to me. People want the hottest new thing, they're like, I'm looking for these other coins. And the truth is that most people are going to lose all their money on those other coins. And that's the reality of it. I was even talking to my brother this morning, we risked maybe, I don't know, 3-4% of my net worth, this year on stuff. And, those things are probably going to go under. We're probably, you invest in those things of the chance you might hit a home run, but you're most likely in those types of things going to go under. Like, you're going to lose most of your money most of the time. And so when you're looking for the hot, shiny new thing all the time, because you need to hit a home run versus you need to hit base hits to really succeed in any business, you start going for the home run, and then you lose and you lose and you lose. You hear the success story of the one person out of thousands that hits the home run, and you think you can be that one person, and you might, but you can't build a life off that. You need to build a life off duplicatable success. And that's really what Message to Millions is. It's a duplicatable system that anybody can do, that's timeless. And it's about a story. It's about message. It's about program. It's about sales system. Those things won't change. You might have percentiles or percentages of them that change, but the whole general concept of those principles, the 100%, it's like the 98% isn't going to change. Marketing, the fundamentals of marketing aren't going to change. You still need a message. Now, the platform you choose, the vehicle you choose will change. New things will come up that you need to adapt to, but that's the 2% or the 5% or the 10% that actually changes over time. And it takes a long time for new technologies to change. Once they get rooted in a system, it takes decades. I was talking last week of, electricity when it first came out. It took decades for people to actually start putting it in factories, and decades
Right.
for all the appliances you use to get electricity in it. Solar power is the same thing. How long has it been around for? You know, it takes decades for these innovations to come into play. Like Elon Musk, you know, they're finally getting the power stations in that are superchargers for your car. Well, they have those in now, but they have these, you know, power stations and superchargers for your car, so your car can go longer and longer and longer. But when the ideas first came out for, you know, electric vehicles, it took a while to build the infrastructure, you know.
Right.
So those technologies, they evolve, and they evolve for decades and decades and decades before they ever come stale, you know. And even when they do become stale, it takes decades for the next wave of technologies to come in. So you kind of got to be in a wave of like the current technology and the new technology, but not always shifting to the new technology too fast, you know?
Right.
And that's the way that I look at things. Like Bitcoin is starting to become it's still a new technology, but it's 12 years in, you know?
Right.
So
And it's still, wouldn't you say it's still in the early adoption phase for Bitcoin?
It's very much in the early adoption phase, so much, particularly with corporations. If you look at the curve of the corporation to actually, you know, get into Bitcoin and then get approved and then be able to put their assets in, it's a 9 to 12 month cycle. So you got to look at, like, only a year ago, maybe, you know, 18 months ago, MicroStrategy was kind of the leader in the marketplace, and they had to jump through all the hoops, which took them a year plus to get into Bitcoin. They made the process easier for the corporations that come after them, but corporate money that's going to flood into Bitcoin this year is still, you got to remember, if they got the idea a year ago, it's just starting to come in. The early adopters, like the Squares and the PayPals and the Teslas and the MicroStrategies, like, they were way early adopters. All the people who were like, wow, this might make a good sense now that Elon Musk put his money in. That was a year ago. Not even a year ago that Elon put his money in. So it's like, okay, now people are starting to wake up and go, maybe I should put a percentage of my corporate dollars into it, right? So you got to remember that, like, retail money moves faster, corporate money moves a lot slower, bank money moves way slower to adopt these innovations. So if you look on the money curve of adoption, it takes a long time for these new technologies to get in place. If you look on the marketing curve, if we go back to marketing and message to millions, retail people like us, we're going to adopt a lot faster, right? To technologies of like, okay, great, we have a new marketing thing, we're going to try it. So retail people are going to adopt. But for big institutions to move their entire marketing strategy to something new, it takes time, right? And so, like, advertising is still going to win the game, like it is on the Facebooks and the YouTubes. It's still going to win the game. You just need to do a little bit better and be a little bit smarter of how you promote and what you promote to. The metaverse is coming, but it's still so new. So you see kind of this gold rush of everybody talking about the metaverse. And, you know, my buddy was telling me the other day that DreamWorks, you know, that produces a couple movies a year, that production company for films, like they literally, from what I heard, research says, like, they're not doing 2 movies a year anymore. They're doing 1 movie a year. And apparently 1 out of every 3 employees or something, like, they're shrinking. And because a lot of people are moving to the metaverse now. And so there's a lot of movement of, like, developers and employees who are in these old systems now that are moving like a land rush to the metaverse to start developing new things. So it's a new technology. The metaverse which isn't even close to $1 trillion marketplace right now. It's still in the maybe 60 billion, 70, maybe it's 100 billion now. 2 months ago it was 54 billion. But so much of, since Meta, right, is now moving over there, you have a huge rush of people moving over there and following the mainstream, you know, bigger companies that are going over there now. But for that technology to launch, it's going to take years and years and years for it to be adopted. Right. So you just got to be smart with where you're putting your money and how you're investing and what you're doing, and know that the basic principles still will win, and they're not dead. But you do need to start innovating part of your business portfolio, your marketing to these new platforms, and be aware of them, because when they do hit, you don't want to be behind the curve.
Right. And when we think about the metaverse, I mean, really what we're talking about is community. We're talking about people coming together and just expressing themselves and experiencing each other in a new way. But it's the same thing we've always done, right? When you think about Facebook groups or you think about developing mastermind programs, people have always flocked to come together to utilize the strengths and the skills of other people. And we're going to see the same thing in the metaverse. So building now on the platforms that are available, using developing your message, developing your program, developing your your expression system, those things are not going to change when the metaverse comes around. So it's so important for people to be building today on whatever platforms are available, rather than trying to flock to the new technology, when it's so important just to build the critical systems. I want to share something real quick from some folks who are in the 3-day challenge right now. One of the things that Liz Carney says was her biggest takeaway from day 2 is blueprint, how to get paid and what it'll take. And we had a similar response from James E. Friday. He says, I need a blueprint. I need a blueprint. I need a blueprint.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit to what a blueprint is and why people really need to understand that and be building that into their business now?
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, people are listening to me, right? So if I say you need this, I'm a trusted authority. They go, I need this. Prior to that, they didn't know what they needed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's part of the confusion is, like, I reiterated that over and over on the call because of how important it is. And it is a fundamental thing to building a business online, building a digital product, building a coaching program. So you hear people saying that because I consistently deliver the message over and over again of this is what you need, this is what you need. And I've been saying that for 7 years. It hasn't changed, right? So people are realizing that they need that because it is the foundation of, like, if you're going to pass on your expertise and teach people, and whatever you want to call that today, it's not just coaching. It's more like you're passing on your advice and your knowledge and your life experience, and you're really you're helping other people become successful with the knowledge that you have. That's all you're doing, right? And so and to me, like, calling somebody a coach is very limited today, because you're a successful person passing on that knowledge to another person who wants to be successful in that area. And to do that, you have to go, here's my successful actions here's the 7 things that I did. So if I'm in finance, I got to go, in finance, here's the 7 things that made me successful. If I'm in real estate, here's the 7 things that made me successful. And that's the blueprint. So you can actually see what made you successful, and then you can pass it on. And I think why it's important today is that, it actually helps you, take out of your head or out of your natural way of livingness, the things that you don't notice, and helps you kind of study and go, what did make me successful? So number 1, it's important for you to do it because you realize the things that made you successful. Number 2, once you see it, you go, other people should know this, and you want to pass it on to other people. And I think if more people did this, like if you had really successful actors who did this, they'd actually go, wow, I've really done this successfully. I should probably teach other actors. If you had really successful real estate people out there who are getting wealthy today and what's going on in the economy, they may be making money. Maybe their extra 5% of responsibility is to pass that on to help some other people who need some help today. And the truth is that people need help today, particularly when you're isolated, and which is why the metaverse is springing up. Because as you were saying, Michael, it's just a way. It's a better quality of life in the virtual world and the digital world. That's all it is. It's just that simple. My buddy came in my mastermind the other day. He came with the Oculus glasses from Facebook. He's like, I'm gonna do this with my next group. So the technology is out today. It's just not out at the level that it needs to be to scale. But that's all the virtual world really is, in simplicity. When I'm sharing this, I'm like, okay, so we're in a world today where, when you look at it today, I was talking to my brother and I'm like, there's pieces of our life that we just lost. We lost it. And, it's cool to innovate. And for a little while, it's like, wow, the virtual world, this did this for us. And this new innovation, like I got heavy into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. That was a great innovation that came out of it. We moved more of our business online. That was a great innovation, but we lost things too. And so I think today it's more important to share your advice than ever, because people need to know what you're doing that's successful, and you need to pass that on so people can survive today. And so really it's a responsibility. So if you're making a lot, if you're still persevering as an actor, let's say, you need to pass that on to other people, and particularly need to pass it on to other people in your industry who were at the top and now are at the bottom. And you're like, what are you doing that's still helping you succeed? If you're in real estate and you pivoted and all of a sudden you're making money off the marketplace, or you're continuing to make money, you have a responsibility to pass these things on. If you're in cryptocurrency right now and things are happening, and you know the markets dropped, well, I mean, overall the stock markets dropped. Like financially, we've hit the head now where it's like the bad news is coming to the surface. And so, you know, the Feds may be raising the interest rates, which isn't a good sign for the stock market. It's not a good sign for Bitcoin, so to speak. In the long run, it is for Bitcoin, but not in the short run. So all those gains that people falsely kind of made over the last couple of years, some of, I shouldn't say falsely, made to an extreme degree, they're not, like, it's not real. You know what I'm saying? So we have to peel back what is real and what is still timeless to create success, and then teach that to other people. Some of these things that happened over the last 2 years, heck, I rode the wave and made a lot of money over that time, right? And then as the crunch hits, you lose a lot of money, right? You know, so you're starting to see the crunch hitting of like, okay, all this money was pumped into companies, right? And stock prices were inflated. Like companies were no more productive when the stock market went up. It just, money was pumped into it. Money was pumped into our economy. So it was false production. You actually felt like you were productive because you were getting checks, but you didn't do anything to earn those checks. And all of a sudden there needs to be a correction. And so what's going to happen as the interest rates go up, the market will drop. And as inflation's going up, that's bad for certain sectors, good for other sectors, right? Inflation is actually good for Bitcoin in the long run. But you have all these things that are happening that are going to affect the marketplace, and they already are. And so my point on this is, people are confused. They're like, well, what are still basic principles that work? And the basic principle that does work with Message to Millions is that people need your advice more than ever. And they need to know, if the market, the industry did change, what are you doing to be successful? And they need to also know stably, what are the things that didn't change in the industry, so we can keep doing them. And then as the world gets back to normal, thank God we've got some announcements of like the UK is deciding to, you know, take the restrictions off in the UK with all the, you know, everything that's going on with COVID, and starting to loosen the restrictions. That's great news, right? There's news coming in because now people can start getting their life back 2 years later after life's changed, and they have to decide, okay, what is my new life? But it's time to bring back in some of the successful actions. You know, like I miss doing my play. I want to get back to doing that. I miss being with my team, working on certain projects to move forward. You know, I miss being with clients in person, whether it's one event a year or masterminds. Like these things we have to put back in place. And so you have to put back in basic principles and basic successful actions, but you also do have to learn from people like you, people like me. What are the new things that I do need to innovate based on the changing times? And I think if we all pass that forward, we can create a better world. If we don't, you're going to have people in confusion. You're going to have people in fear. You're going to have people losing money. You're going to have people just trying to survive. And you're going to have a lot of businesses going under. And that's what you're seeing right now, right? So it's not about getting caught up in the fear. It's the realization, if you don't do anything about it, you're, I won't say the word, but you're that.
Understood. You bring up some really interesting points here, and one of the things that I made a note here is that so many folks who have a skill, have a talent, have a career, are coming out of something that they've been very successful in, that they do need a blueprint because they have blinders on. They don't realize what the successful actions are. So not only does taking a step back and really writing those things down help you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, but that's the blueprint. That's what gives you the ability to start teaching others. And the world needs experts more than ever, because you have these giant institutions teaching things that are so outdated. I think that's really powerful. We had Nick Nanton on the other week, and he's an Emmy Award winner. And the way that, and he broke this down for us, the way that he became an Emmy Award winner was he asked somebody who's won Emmys, he had them break it down into a step-by-step blueprint, and he followed that blueprint.
Right,
and he was an
right.
Emmy Award winner because he just
Yeah,
followed the blueprint.
And I said to him, I said, there's your next product that you should teach. Like he should. Like that's a product you teach. Like there's a lot of people who would want to know that, right? So
exactly.
This guy's done it 22 times. He's got a duplicatable system, right?
Exactly. I wanted to recognize real quick Jamie Lynn Montour, who won the raffle. She was so thrilled. I don't know if you saw her Facebook post in the group. Yeah. She was beside herself in appreciation for that. The other thing, Scott Young said the biggest breakthrough that he got out of, and also I want to make sure people know, in the description here, and there's a link to make sure you do not miss Friday at 2 p.m. Ted is going to be doing the final day of the 3-day challenge. If you've missed 2 days, don't worry about it. Get there. If you've been here the whole time, make sure you attend that because it's going to be extremely special and you're going to walk away with a lot. So make sure you click that link below so you know exactly when that goes live, because we're going to be wrapping up here in a second. But I did want to mention Scott Young said that his biggest breakthrough is using the steps and outcomes to equal the pricing and value of his products. And so I think that's something that a lot of people don't quite understand, like which things that they teach or which part of the blueprint and how to price them. What has been kind of your philosophy when it comes to pricing? Like this idea of, okay, what's the outcome somebody's going to get? This one step, this could make somebody, a lot of money, and then finding a way to charge for that. What's kind of your philosophy there?
Well, so if you break down certain industries, right? Like the problem is industries, right? And so you go to our medical, society is based on it's kind of this is my viewpoint, right? I'm not an expert in it, but it's my viewpoint. It's like, okay, you have a problem, now let's fix it, right? So it's addressing the pain, right? A lot of times, right? Somebody goes into the chiropractor when they have pain, right? It's not really set up for prevention, so to speak, And so you look at these industries, and so they're selling not even an outcome; they're selling a problem. They're selling, let me solve your problem, which is good marketing, but what's the outcome of a lot of the industries? What, you take a pill and cover up your problem, like. So how do you charge a lot for that? Now, because the way they have insurance is set up and the way they have prescription drugs set up, they make a fortune off of it, right? But if you're selling true outcomes, right, and there's actually an outcome to your product, like, you know what I'm saying? There's actually an outcome to your product, then you would have multiple outcomes if your product actually worked. And so I am going to challenge that there's a lot of things in the medical industry that don't work. And so they're selling things that cover up the ailment or cover up the pain or whatever. If you get me started on the mental health industry, like most of the products in there are just based on lies. So they have no product, right? And if you have no product, you can't sell an outcome. So, and so there is no outcome. And the fields of psychiatry and psychology are based on they're not based on products that actually produce outcomes for people, because they're not based on truth. And I think psychology was attempted to be founded on certain truths, but got so far away from what it is. If you look at psyche, the Greek derivation of that actually means soul. Right. So initially psychology was intended to be the study of the soul, but it has nothing to do with that today. And if you ask psychologists that, most of them don't even know that. So the actual derivation of the word, they got so far away from the intention of it, that it's just not even true anymore. And there's just such limited truth to it. So there's no outcome to the product, which is why people don't get better. If people were getting better, the society would be better, but people are getting more and more crazy today. So if you look at that product, it's failed. Psychiatry is just a complete lie, right? Complete lie. There's no medical evidence whatsoever, proof. And they actually vote on diseases. So the DSM, the Diagnostical Statistical Manual that comes out, they sit around in a room and they go, let's vote on this disease. It's not based on science. And they act like nail biting is a disease, a mental disease. A child screaming in their crib They have a DSM now for kids 0 to 5. Initially it was 0 to 3. They couldn't sell it, right? They were actually trying to target kids 0 to 3 with mental illnesses and trying to target them with psychiatric drugs. They couldn't sell it, so they changed it 0 to 5. The largest growing demographic that's being increasingly taking psych drugs this year. The largest demographic in terms of the increase of psych drugs in that demographic is 0 to 5. It's your kids. And there's no product, right? So they vote on illnesses, and then they write up these DSMs, these diagnostic manuals, and that's the basis of part of the basis of what psychiatry is. So you look at these industries where people are trying, that are important to people, like your body. And I'm not saying there's not things in the physical, the health industry. I'm not saying there's not things that are good. There are, right? But there's also a lot of things that aren't. If you look at the mental health industry, they're so far away from any product there whatsoever, right? Which is why we don't support that. Okay, we don't support that in our programs. We don't help people promote stuff that has to do with the mind. Okay, and that's the reason why. So when you look at this stuff, it's like, okay, what are they actually selling? They can't sell an outcome, and certainly can't sell 2 outcomes, 3 outcomes, because when you don't have 1 outcome, you can't sell a second. You see, so if you're in that industry, right, you're in a sea of confusion. In the worst ones, you're in a sea of lies. And now if you're trying to follow the model of that industry, you have no outcomes to sell. Okay. So that's a problem. And certainly in certain areas, I'm not saying there's nothing that exists in those fields, right? But I'm saying that it's few and far between, right? And so you then got to find, okay, what is the right product, the right thing that can actually help people? Because I'm not saying there's not hope in the area of, helping people with their mind. I'm not saying there's not hope in the area of helping with their body. There can be products there that are really good for people. But the great majority that we see, I think the public agrees that the great majority is not that great. So then you go, okay, well, if I'm going to get in an industry like even finance, like what could I sell in finance? Well, finance is tough too, because that's an industry that is people have lost the confidence in it, right? So now you have structures that have lost confidence. So what are you selling in those industries? The best you can sell in something like that, if you're teaching finance, let's say you're in real estate, there's a lot of things that can work in that area. So you can actually teach strategy and teach things that work in that area, because I think assets and property are great, right? But if you're selling something of like teaching people how to make money in the stock market, and teaching people how to make money in the S&P 500, you got a tough road there. And now if you're teaching people to make money in cryptocurrencies or things like that, it's such a new industry and new space too. The best you can do there is actually educate them and empower them, right? So if you educate them and you empower them on truth, which is a lot of what we're doing in Message to Millions, we're educating the customer, giving them the knowledge so they can see what's true, what's not true, get knowledge, and get more control back over their life in these spaces, because everybody has to play in finance. Nobody's can avoid that. Everybody has to play in the physical body. Everybody has to play in some area of their mind and getting better. So these are areas and industries that we all are a part of. So how do you actually help somebody get control of that? You actually have to educate them. Now there's a product. If you can educate somebody and teach them things that are successful and proven to be successful, there can be outcomes for that person to take control of their life.
Right. And specifically, if you've been there, right? I mean, that's the whole point, is we've got these experts who have done the thing that they want to teach others. Oftentimes, they just haven't clearly defined what the outcomes they got were, what the outcomes they want to provide with other people, and then work backwards to construct what is the blueprint to get them there. And
that's right.
If people really look inward on their success, that's how you construct it backwards, and that's how you build the platform and the program to get your message out to millions.
Right. And ultimately then you're looking, okay, so what was the point of what I was saying, is that now you actually have an outcome to talk about.
Right.
If you have a product that's outside the scope of these industries, because now you can talk about, okay, well, if I do get somebody more healthy, they have more energy, and if they do have energy, they're more productive, and if they're more productive, they make more money. If I do empower somebody to understand finances, they have more control. If they have more control, they can make better decisions. If they make better decisions, they can be more responsible in that field. And if they're more responsible, they're going to make more money. They're going to feel more freedom in that area because they understand how to navigate it and see what's real and what's not real. And they can get wealthy, and they can be kind of the CEO of their financial world, instead of putting somebody else in as the CEO, who doesn't know how to run your life. And so that starts to become products with multiple outcomes that are good. You see what I'm saying?
Right. That's huge. If you are new to this YouTube channel, if you haven't clicked the bell, make sure you do that. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button, make sure you do that, because we go live here every Thursday. You guys are welcome to join us and ask questions. If you have specific things that you want answers to, we're here to help you. This Friday at 2 p.m. is day 3 of the Message to Millions 3-day challenge. Make sure you click the button below and hit us there on Friday. Ted, do you have any final messages? Anything you want to wrap up with?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, come join us Friday. If you're here, if you're already part of the challenge, you're getting a lot of emails from us. We just opened the cart to Message to Millions to join. We had some people join yesterday, which is great. So sign up for Message to Millions, the actual online coaching program we have, and learn how to do it, and hopefully we can help you.
Yeah. If you need a system to really get clear on your message, if you want a blueprint to package your program and price it, and you want a system to get that out to people, join the Message to Millions group. Make sure you click on the subscribe button here and go check out that cart, because we're going to be closing it down pretty soon, and it's your opportunity to get in on the ground floor. Ted McGrath, it's such a pleasure spending time with you, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
brother. All right.
Cheers.
Peace.